My name is Mack Worley. I'm a former Air Force veteran. I served 5 years, 9 months as security forces in the Air Force. I retired medically, disabled vet. While I was in the Air Force, I received several medals. One of them was a Good Conduct Medal. The whole reason why I'm doing this interview here is because I was open carrying yesterday afternoon, approximately 7:45, and I parked my vehicle behind the Walgreens on 164th next to the fireworks display. I walked from there to Burgerville with my AR-15 slung across my body right here, hung right down at my side, where I was not touching it. I had in my right hand, I was recording with my cell phone the video of myself open carrying. And I went down to Burgerville. I picked up a Sprite from there, walked from there back down to the fireworks display. I checked out some prices inside the fireworks, walked out. I was going to leave, but and by the way, this whole time no one had said anything negative to me. A few people came up to me and asked a few questions about what I was doing, and I just explained, you know, I'm just out here asserting my Second Amendment right, and I was explaining to people that it's not against the law and it's not a crime to open carry a firearm. And I was being lawful in every way, and I was not being threatening in any manner with my firearm. In fact, I didn't touch it except for one time at the beginning of my video to ensure that it was on safe, and it was. So anyway, so I walked down to Big Al's from my car to see what that was, because I didn't know it was a bowling alley. And as I walked over there, I realized, okay, it's a bowling alley. So I'm taking the sidewalk, the public sidewalk now, to come back around to go to my car. And I look in front of me down the street on the sidewalk. I just turned the corner because Big Al's is right here. I was walking this way, this direction from the parking lot, where my car was over this way, and I was going to come take the sidewalk back around and come back to my car. And I look down this road down here, and a police officer is down there. So I think I'm just going to talk to this police officer and explain what I'm doing out there, and that's going to be it. By the way, this is my first open carry. I've never done this before, and you know, I was excited to, you know, get out and assert my rights and just show everybody that it's not against the law, and that an armed society is a polite society. So I wanted to basically just walk and explain myself to the police officer. I know he's probably received some phone calls. That was my guess, and you know, I just want to explain my situation. So as I start walking to them, I hear on the loudspeaker to my left, in the parking lot I just came from, a police officer tell me to put my hands up. And I look over and I put my hands up above my head. I got my camera right here, and they tell me to take off my gun, and I'm telling them I don't want to touch my gun. Have I done anything wrong? Something to that lines. And they are all pointing their guns at me. I have about 7 police officers pointing their guns at me. I have several of them with pistols pointing their weapons at me. I have one officer, Hernandez, a female officer. She pointed her shotgun at me. I had the officer that on the street down this way that I was about ready to walk to. He was now in a kneeling position with his AR-15 pointed at me. And at this point, I'm freaked out. So I got my hands above my head with my camera. They tell me to turn my camera off. I tell them no, thank you. And they tell me to remove my weapon. I say I don't want to submit to any searches or seizures of myself or my weapon or my identification. They tell me to take it off again, and they're all pointing their guns and moving in on me. So I'm like, okay, I'm removing it. I take it from the strap up here. I pull it off, knock off my hat in the process, put my gun down in the grass, and then I got my hands up, and I'm walking towards the officer in the parking lot over this way where I just came from. The officer then starts questioning who I am, and he asks for my identification. I again say no, thank you. I ask him if I'm being detained. He says no. I ask him if I've broken any laws. He says no. I ask him if I'm suspected of a crime. He says no. And I'm like, well, am I free to go? And he says, no, we need to make sure your gun's not stolen. So they are in the process. While I'm talking to this police officer in the parking lot over here, there's at least 2 or 3 officers over on this side with my gun, and one of them is flicking out all my bullets into the grass in my magazine. I had 30 rounds in my magazine. And Then afterwards, I ask them again, am I being detained? And they tell me no. I ask them, am I free to go? And they give me a lecture about what I was doing out there. And at this point, I'm really frustrated, and I tell them, you know, that I'm done talking to them. I don't want to explain myself to them anymore. I asked them if I can just go. One of the officers, Officer Hernandez, the female who was pointing the shotgun at me, she told me to shut up a couple times. I got that on camera. And Officer Rollins, he was the one who I was having the primary contact with. He seemed to be the one calling the shots out there. Anyway, so they finally let me get my gun. I start reloading my magazine again, and they go back to their cars, but they don't leave. They go back to their cars. I'm on the public sidewalk, loading my magazine back up, and I even said in the video, I said I was really shocked that this happened, but earlier in the video I was saying, because I'd been out there for at least 30 minutes before the police even showed up, and I was giving kudos to the city of Vancouver and the police department, because either one, the police department knows that it's my right to open carry, and they aren't going to hassle me about it, or two, the people of Vancouver aren't misinformed and think that it's against the law. So I was really excited for that, but then after this happened, I realized I was wrong, and it's just a delayed response. They must have waited till they got everybody there or something. So anyway, so I'm picking up all my bullets. I had to find it all in the grass because it was all kind of tucked in there, and I load my gun back up, just insert my magazine. I didn't put it around in the chamber. I sling it back over my shoulder, put on my hat, and my car's in the parking lot, and I just want to go home at this point. And I start walking into the parking lot from the public sidewalk. I walk into the grass towards the police officer, and they tell me I can't come that way. So I walk back onto the sidewalk, and they say if I don't leave, they're going to arrest me for trespassing on a public sidewalk. So I start walking down towards the police officer this way on the road, and he gets on the loudspeaker and says I can't walk that way either. So now the only way I can go is to go the complete opposite direction of my vehicle. And so I start walking in that direction, and they all start just swarming me, and they yell at me to get on my knees, put my hands above my head. I do the same thing. I put my camera right on top of top of my head here, and they swarm on me. And one officer, I don't know who he was. I can't remember what his name was, but he grabbed my arm, and one of the things that I'm disabled for is I have bad shoulders, and he pulled me down, and my arms up like this, and he yelled at me to stop resisting. I wasn't resisting. He was hurting me, and I said, "You're hurting me," and he said, "I know," and he laughed, and I probably have that on camera too. So anyway, at this point, I look over my shoulder, and Officer Hernandez is on my phone doing something, and then they start standing me up, and I don't see what she's doing anymore. I don't know if she was deleting my recording or not. I don't have my phone at this point. They took it as evidence against me. Anyway, Officer Hernandez, a female, then proceeded to search me while there are at least 4 to 5 other male officers around. She searched me, and she grabbed my groin. I told her she did not have permission to do that, and that she was sexually assaulting me. And that, if the cameras are on the dashes of the police officers' vehicles, I had the one vehicle pointed directly at me over here, and another vehicle pointed directly at me over here. You know, I want to subpoena those dash cams so I can see and have another view if they took my camera. Regardless, my camera wasn't pointed at me at that point. They'd already taken it. I was immediately arrested. I was thrown in the back of a police officer car. Hernandez was very rude to me several times during this time. I was initially in her car, and then they moved me to Officer Rowland's car.